Hello and welcome to my channel, The Danish Readaholic. Today I will be going through my top 10 favorite YA books. I'm not really sure I do this often on my channel, but whenever I talk to people about books, I tend to use the phrase, "Oh, that's one of my all-time favorites." And I'm like, okay, which ones are actually my all-time favorite YA books? I've made a little pile here. Some are more so favorites than others, but these are definitely like my top 10 books, like the books that I would recommend to everyone. There is one that I want to put on here, but I just don't really remember that much about it. So just, you know, an honorable mention to this list is definitely Incendiary by Zoraida Cordova. I am rereading that this month, so my opinion after this month might have changed, and there might be one of these books that are not on the list after this month, but we'll see. I guess I can talk more about that when I do my tier ranking for the year, which I am planning to do as I did last year. So I've got 10 books to talk about. I'm gonna do my best to give a proper summary for all of them, but as you might have realized by now, my memory is not the best. And I tend to mix up what is actually happening in the books. So yeah, that is an issue. But I will do my absolute best, and then I will also go into why this is on my favorites list and what it was about this specific book that made me love it so much. So I think without further ado, let's just get into it because we do have 10 books to talk about. Up first, we have An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. This is actually not one of the books that I talk about a lot, and honestly I think it's because I tend to forget it, because I normally just go for like the ones that all of you know are on the list, like these Violin Delights, Kingdom of the Wicked, and Graceling. They're the ones that I tend to talk about the most, but this one, I understand the hype. I understand the hype. So we follow Laia and Elias in this. I'm not sure I'm correct, but I do think I remember that it is like a desert world where we have Laia, whose parents have been killed, and I think they were part of this resistance for the government. Whereas Elias is training to become like, I don't remember the specific word for it, but like a soldier for this government. And then some stuff happens in the beginning that makes Laia go to the rebellion, and they give her this mission to infiltrate the school where the soldiers are being trained. And that is where we also kind of get these intertwined stories with Elias, who is training at this academy, but he doesn't really want to be there, so he is kind of trying to escape. He's not the soldier that they want him to be, because they want him to be like stone cold and not have feelings, and he can't really do that. So that is where he is different from like the rest of the academy. And the story in itself is just very, very interesting. I was surprised about the violence level in this. There's just so many things where I was like, is that really happening right now? Like, what's going on? And especially the villain in this. I've mentioned that multiple times because this villain is horrible. Very well-written villain, but a horrible human being. That is what I mean when I say horrible villain. It's not that the villain is bad for the story. It's a very, very great villain. Next up is actually a recent read, and that is Fable. I was actually kind of shocked with myself that I put this on my top 10, but it really is, and I like the characters in this. I really enjoy Fable, I really enjoy West, and all the crew members on the Marigold. One of my favorite characters from this book will have to be Willa. I'm not gonna explain too much into detail who she is, other than the fact that she is a crew member on the Marigold. That's all I'm gonna say. But in this story, we follow Fable, who was left on this island called Javal that is filled with thieves. And she was left there by her father, and basically she has to fend for herself and try to escape this island. And in order to do so, she goes to find these jewels and then sells them, so eventually she can buy a passage off this island. I waited so long with reading this book. I tried to read it once and then I was like, no, I'm not having it. I'm not reading it right now. And for some reason, I couldn't follow. Then I read it last month and I was like, why didn't I read this sooner? It was so good. I have heard that the sequel is not the best, but I kind of just want to know what happens to Fable, because the ending in this, if you read it, you'll know what I'm talking about. I want to know what happens because things were going well and then all of a sudden they were not. So the next book on the list is also a book that I read fairly recent. I read this in August, and that is Heart of Thorns by Bree Barton. I've had this for a while, and when I got it, I was like, I know that this is gonna be like a 5-star. This is gonna be like one of my all-time favorites. I have a feeling, I get the vibe, I just know it. And I was correct. I really, really did enjoy it. I don't think I gave it 5 stars, but I know I at least gave it 4. In this book, we follow Mia, who is wanting to be like this Gwyrak hunter, which is what I want to say they're witches, kind of witches. But she wants to be this Gwyrak hunter because her mother was killed by one of these creatures called a Gwyrak, which is basically a woman with talents. But she then ends up having to marry the prince in order to secure this alliance, I think, between her father, who is like the most famous Gwyrak hunter, and then the kingdom. We basically start off meeting Mia as she is preparing for her wedding and also debating escape plans in order to get her sister to safety as well. But then the wedding happens and stuff happens during the wedding that reveals a secret about Mia that she did not know and that no one knew. She then ends up having to escape with the prince that she was supposed to marry and try to find a safe haven, and that is the quest that they go on. I loved Mia. She grew on me. I didn't like her at first, but she definitely grew on me. I also like Quinn, who is the prince. I've said this before, I think when I did my, it might have been a wrap-up or something where I mentioned that I wasn't feeling the chemistry between them. And I wasn't in the beginning, but then eventually it grew on me. And I feel like it wasn't, or it kind of was enemies to lovers, but it wasn't like the enemies to lovers that I'm used to, where it's like, I hate you with a burning passion. It was more so that I don't like you because I am forced to marry you, and I would rather pick someone else because we have nothing in common. So it was more of like, I hate you because I don't know you, and I'm trying to be tough, kind of. That is the vibe that I got from both Quinn and Mia. This book, like the ending, had me shook. I had an idea of who the villain was gonna be. I didn't want that, but I had an idea. And I was correct. I had multiple thoughts, like multiple ideas as to who could be the villain. And it ended up being multiple villains, and some of them I had already predicted. So I was like, okay, I didn't expect more than one, but I welcome it. And then the ending, Mia does something in order to save her sister, and I am very intrigued as to see what is gonna happen next. The next book on my list is definitely one that I want to reread soon because again, this is the same case as with An Ember in the Ashes. I love this so much, and this series I've actually finished. But I love this so much, but for some reason I just keep forgetting about it and I don't talk about it that often. And that is Grace and Fury by Tracy Banghart. This book, these characters, I can't. I love Serena and I loved, what is her name, Nomi. I have a Spotify playlist dedicated to this. I think it's called Welcome to Mount Ruin, Dead Girl, and I'm just like, love it. My favorite character in this was definitely Serena, but we'll get into that. First, I want to talk a little bit about what the book is about. So in this world, we have this kingdom where Serena and Nomi, who are sisters, they live in this kingdom, and Serena has been training all her life to become a Grace, which is like, if I have understood it correctly, it is like the equivalent to a king's wives, but there's multiple Graces. And then there's like the main, I don't want to call it a main Grace because I do know that there's like it's called something, but I don't remember what it is. But like the main one, and then there's some others, I think 3 or something. And then we have Nomi, who is her sister. I think it's her younger sister. And she has always been rather rebellious and thought that everything, like all the rules that were set in place in this country, was unfair, because basically women have no rights, like they can't even read a book. And if you are able to read, then you will be punished, basically. And then through a turn of events, Nomi is picked as a Grace instead of Serena, and then Serena is picked as her handmaiden. And in order to try and cheer Serena up, Nomi wants to read her story, but basically Serena knows the story by heart, so she holds the book and tells the story. And then she's caught, even though she does not know how to read, she just knows the story. And she is then sent to this prison island called Mount Ruin, where she learns a lot about herself and a lot about what is wrong with the government and the kingdom that she has been striving so hard to be like a part of. But it is a dual perspective, and we do follow both Nomi and Serena as all of this is taking place. I love Nomi, she's great and everything, but Serena will just always have a special place in my heart. There's just so much about her that I feel like I can relate to in some sense. I'm just vibing with Serena on a whole other level, and I love this book so much. The setting of Mount Ruin and everything that happens there is why this book is on my list. As I've said a million times, I also like Nomi's story, but I was definitely more invested in Serena's part and the whole Mount Ruin thing and the characters on Mount Ruin, like Oracle and Petrol and all those characters. I was definitely in it for the Mount Ruin part. Next up we have another recent read, and I read this last month and I loved it a lot, and you've already seen me rave about it in my TBR, or not my TBR, in my wrap up. So I'm not going to go into that much detail. But it is The Frost Eater by Carol Beth Anderson, and in this we follow, oh, what's her name? Nora, and we follow Cray. Nora is a princess in this kingdom, and she is a frost eater, which means that she has ice magic. And then we have Cray, who is a magic eater, which means that he has multiple magical talents. And I do believe that it is only ice magic, and then he has the ability to fly. We then follow these two characters where Nora discovers that Cray has ice magic and that he has a very like grand control of it, let's call it that, and he can do a bunch of stuff that she can't. So she wants him to be her tutor, and in order to do so she brings him to the, let's call it the capital. But Cray has like hidden intentions as to why he wants to go to the capital, because his girlfriend, Seisha, as I call her, has been offered this apprenticeship in the capital, and he hasn't heard from her, or he has, but they're very cryptic messages, and he is convinced that she is not the one sending him these letters. So he wants to go to the capital to kind of figure out if it is actually Seisha or if it is someone else as he expects. The thing that I really liked about this story was the magic system. Also the relationships and everything. I was so expecting it to be enemies to lovers with Cray and Nora, but Cray has a girlfriend, and a girlfriend that he loves so much, so it was more enemies to friends, and I really love the friendship. And then we also have some other characters that end up going on the journey with these two. We have Oberon, who is a guard at the castle, and I love him. He's so sweet. So basically there's a lot of things about this story that I enjoy, but especially the magic system, as I've mentioned, is phenomenal, because you have to actually ingest fuel to be able to use your magic. I definitely want to learn more about the magic system because I do find it very intriguing. Next up we have The Raven and the Dove by Caitlin Davis. I enjoy this series so much, and I love the characters. This is also one of the ones where Caitlin and I disagree, because, well, we both love it, but her favorite characters are Cassie and Sander, whereas my favorite characters are Liana and Rafe. But I definitely get why other people would like Cassie and Sander So it's not like I don't understand it, it's just preference, you know. We follow 4 different points of views. We follow Lyanna, who is the princess of the doves. Then we follow Xander, who is the prince of the ravens. Then we follow Rafe, who is, I guess he is also a raven prince, but he is more so like a bastard son of the Raven King. And then we follow Cassie, who is an orphan owl that then ends up being Lyanna's best friend. And in the first book, we start off with this mating ceremony, basically, where everyone has to compete in these kind of trials to determine your score, I guess I would call it. And then the best male will get to pick first, and then the best female will get to pick second, or something along those lines. I think it was something along those lines at least. But then we basically follow Lyanna, Xander, Rafe, and Cassie through this entire ordeal and all the outcomes after this. There is so much in this book that I enjoy. But the thing that made me think about this for so long was definitely the world and the fact that these people are birds. So we have Lyanna, who is a dove, and she has all the dove-ish traits. Same as with Rafe, who is a raven. I can definitely feel that the raven vibes, and also with Lyanna the dove things, and it is so interesting. And also when you hear about the different countries, I want to call it, and the type of bird that are there, I feel like it is just so interesting. And honestly, I would love to have these majestic wings. Like, can we just, hold on, let me just show you Lyanna's wings, because you see them here, and then it just goes all the way to the back with the gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous wings. I am so in love with this goddamn book. You have like no idea. But my favorite part about this is definitely the world building and like the wings thing. It is just spot on. This next book might be not a controversial choice, but it is a sequel in a series. But I wanted to talk, well, it's the entire series that I love, but this one is my favorite in that series, so I want to talk about that. We have Fire by Kristen Cashore, which is the second book in the Graceling series. So far in the Graceling series, every single book has been about a new character. I haven't read Winterkeep yet, so I can't really talk about that. But this one follows Fire, who is a monster. And a monster in this world is basically, oh, it's been so long since I've read it, but you have these abilities to, I think it's mind read, and then you have this, or at least Fire, she has this big colorful hair that sets her apart so that people can see that she's a monster. So basically a monster can take the shape of a human, or is a human but with these traits, or it can be a cat that is green and then has some kind of traits as well. That is basically what a monster is. So it's not the traditional monster that you would think, but that is just what they're called in this world. And Fire is one of my, like, she's probably one of my all-time favorite characters. Maybe I should also make a list with that, because that would, I tend to say that a lot as well. But Fire definitely has a special place in my heart. And in this book, we follow Fire as she lives on this land with a friend of hers and his father, and I don't really remember why she lives there, but she does. And then she is summoned to court to basically try and see if she can feel a presence of someone that is not supposed to be there, because last time she was there, she felt this presence. And they want to know if it's the same person. I do believe that it was something along those lines. It's been a while since I read it, and I need to reread it soon. But, oh my god, Fire, I love her so much. And I definitely also love Katza and Poe and Bitterblue and everyone else from the series, but Fire and Briggan and the characters in this book will always have a special place in my heart, because they're just so phenomenal. Now we get into the books that you knew I was going to talk about. So we have Bone Crier's Moon by Catherine Purdy. Surprise, surprise. So in this we follow Elise, Bastian, and Sabine. Elise is this lovely lady. She is, well, both her and Sabine are these kind of bone criers, which is actually not the term that they call themselves, but I do not really remember what that was. It is this type of woman that holds the power of animals that she has killed and kept the bones of in her necklace. Like a regular bone crier can have 3, and I think the matron, which is like the leader, can have 5 bones, and then she will have the abilities from these animals, which I think is really cool. And we follow Elise. I think we start off in the beginning where she is hunting her last, like for her last bone, and then she is supposed to have her ceremony where she will become a farrier, which is like the next level of bone criers, where she will get to ferry the souls of the deceased into the afterlife. But in this ceremony, she then has to kill her one true love, and that is where Bastian comes in. Bastian is on the hunt for bone criers because his father was killed by one. So when he sees Elise on the bridge, where she is supposed to kill her one true love, he is drawn to her and tries to kill her. Then we have Sabine, who is Elise's best friend, kind of like a sister. She is more hesitant about killing the animals that she needs in order to complete her necklace or her charm or whatever to gain her powers so that she can also become a farrier, because she cannot kill. She cannot do it. It feels wrong to her. So these are like the 3 main people that we follow. The thing that I loved about this book is definitely the enemies to lovers aspect that we do have in here. At first, I didn't care for Sabine. I was like, no, give me Elise, give me Bastian, that is what I want. But the more I read Sabine's story, I was like, okay, yeah, that's good. Give me that. That is why this is on the list. And also, the magic in this, I feel like it is very unique. I haven't really heard of magic like this before. So yes, this is definitely one of my all-time favorites. We have these Violin Delights by Chloe Gong. In this, we follow Roma and Juliet, who are on these opposite gangs in Shanghai in 1926. And this disease basically is spreading through Shanghai, where people are tearing out their own throats. And Juliet has pieces of information that she can't really go anywhere with because she doesn't know where to go, basically. And Roma has information that he doesn't really know what to do with because he can't do anything. So they decide actually to team up and try to beat this disease or this virus that is spreading, because basically Roma has the information that Juliet needs and the other way around. So in the way to, they just decide to do this together despite hating each other because of their prior relationship. I am here for that. So this is actually lovers to enemies to lovers. What I really enjoyed about this Roma and Juliet, I can't lie. That was like, I love that. I was also very intrigued with like the mystery that goes on and surrounding this whole virus. Like, what is it? Why is people dying from this? And what makes people like rip out their own throats? That sounds disgusting. So yeah, it was definitely that. And also the whole flapper 1920s vibe. I was just here for it. The final book on the list, we do have Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco. Oh my god, this book took me by surprise. And I recently recommended this book to one of my friends named Victoria, and then like out of the blue the other day she texted me, she was like, what the fuck is this book? It is so great. And I was like, yes, I told you. So now she's also waiting for the sequel. But in Kingdom of the Wicked, we follow these 2 sisters. I don't remember their names. Hold on. Their names are Emily and Victoria, and basically Victoria has been acting kind of strange recently, and then she dies. And Emily is hellbent on trying to figure out why she died, so she summoned this demon that she suspects had something to do with her death. What she does not realize is that she actually is, or has summoned, one of the demon princes of hell, which is Wrath. I love it. The whole demonic presence and the fact that I feel like there's also some kind of voodoo or witchery, but not in the sense that we normally see with like magical powers and like poof. Magic, but like potions and like what I would call old school witchery kind of give me Sabrina vibes, like that type, like the TV show The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, where every single time that they have to do magic is either a potion or this really long spell that you have to cast. That is the type of magic that I'm talking about, and that is apparently also the type of magic that I prefer, because I feel like that was present in here, and then together with the demonic presence and like the Italian vibes, because it takes place in Italy. I think it takes place, was it in Sicily? I am here for it. There's also a food element to this. It wasn't the thing that I remember the most, to be honest, because I don't really care that much for food elements in books. That is just not my vibe. But when it's Italian, I don't care. Like, throw it at me. It's just the best. That's it. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave a comment telling me maybe like your top 5, and like if you want to give me your top 10 favorite books, please feel free to do so. I might get some great recommendations out of it, so I would love it. If you like this video, please hit the like icon, and if you want to see more of my bookish content, then please hit that subscribe button. Also, if you want to be notified every single time that I post, hit the little bell icon. It would just mean the world to me. And until I see you next time, bye!